Hello everyone and welcome to the FPL Cougars live show. I'm Chris and in today's show I'll be taking a quick look back at Gameweek 4 and then turning my attention to Gameweek 5 with a preview of the fixtures as well as highlighting some key player stats. If you're new to the stream, hi and thanks for joining us. If you've got any questions, pop them in the chat and I'll get to as many as possible while I'm doing the preview. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe and that like button so you don't miss out on the weekly shows. I must also say before we get into the full preview, you can join the FPL Cougars mini league using the link in the video description below, where you can compete against the millions from people around the world. And I've got to shout out the current mini league leader. That's Oscar Frandon, who's currently 403 overall rank. Absolutely fantastic start for Oscar. Great team, and going to keep an eye on the top of the FPL Cougars mini league as we do the show this season, just to see how you're all getting on. On to me. Wow, I'm absolutely having a stinker of a start to this season. Really, really, really poor. But we plough on, we continue on, and hopefully by doing the show I can turn the ship around. But story of the game week: 54 points. Going into game week 4, I couldn't really decide whether to get Ronaldo or Lukaku in for a -4 and taking out Bruno. I thought it seemed mad to get rid of someone, and I didn't. Someone like Bruno who had the capability to return big. I wasn't sure if Ronaldo was going to start. It's funny, when he signed, I was thinking, right, I'm going to get him in the team straight away, triple captain, not even think about it. But as the weeks went on over the international break, I kind of thought there's not much chance he'll get into the team straight away, or he won't play 90 minutes. But all of that was blown out the window. Ronaldo obviously started, scored 2 goals. I must say, even though I'm a sort of United follower, I've got to say they were some jammy goals, but they all count, and fair play to him. I brought in Ronaldo and captained him. For not having him and Lukaku, I tried to play it smart. I'm still planning on the Game Week 7 wildcard. I kind of thought, right, Ings has got some bad fixtures. Let's make a simple trade from Ings to Jimenez, who's probably got better fixtures. Wolves had some great attacking numbers. And yeah, that just backfired. Jimenez scoring less than Ings this game week, ending on 54 points. Antonio obviously red with that -1. Calvert-Lewin, who I was banking on being a bit of a differential and turning my fortunes around last night, obviously didn't even get on the pitch. So yeah, it was just a bit of a poor showing from my team in game week 4. No Brighton defence is really hurting me still. It's savage seeing Sanchez pick up clean sheets. It feels like every week, even though he's only had 2. Backman's not been good, but we move on and we'll get through it. So we'll see how the rest of the season goes. Now we're going to jump on to game week 5, and while I talk through it, I'm just going to pull up the fixtures on screen. So this shows the teams rated by what is considered to be the easiest fixtures from game weeks 5 to 10. You can see Leeds there topping it, Wolves as well, and then every so often it's going to flick in between the key stats. So the key stats are basically the top 10 players and ranked by expected points for the first 4 game weeks now. So yeah, as I'm talking through the fixtures, if you've got any questions, pop them in the chat and be happy to share my opinion on them. But we'll start off by talking about Leeds against Newcastle hosting Leeds on Friday night. Newcastle, really rough start to the season for them. I thought they looked dangerous in spells against United on the break, but that's probably because United played so many attackers in that one. I'm not expecting much from them in this game. They've been poor without Wilson, and they've conceded at least 2 goals in 6 of their last 7 home matches. So despite the fact that Leeds have also started quite poorly, I do think this is looks like a really good fixture if you're planning to pick up on the Leeds fixture run, which starts now. They've got a beautiful run. Newcastle, West Ham and Watford at home back-to-back, Southampton, Wolves and Norwich in the next 6 games. Really looking good. But like I say, Leeds have started sluggishly. The chairman even touched on the fact that it could be the second season syndrome. They've conceded the second most goals, but I've got to say they've got a good chance of the first clean sheet here. Bamford, he's probably, if I'm going to play it boring this week, I'll talk more about my transfers at the end, but Bamford looks like, if he hasn't got a hamstring injury, which I think was touched on at the end of last game week, he could be the one for me to bring in. So he's had 10 shots in the box so far this season. Expected points of 20.2, which is in the top 20 of all players, so not bad. I kind of expect him to do well in these 6 runs. I've got Rafinha at the moment. I'm hoping he can pick up attacking return. I thought he's been a bit not invisible, but he hasn't provided much in the last couple of games when I've owned him. And I don't know, any return in this first game could be good for me because he's got a relatively small ownership of 15%. I still think both of or one or the other of those are going to be great run, or great for this run of fixtures. So yeah, well worth looking at if you've not got already. Fraser Love has said, do you think wildcard now may be worth it with my team? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, wildcard is something I'm going to touch on when I bring up my team at the end. I've given some thoughts to how it might look, and I'll probably share that before the deadline on the channel if I do decide to go that way. I feel like I've got quite a few problems in different areas, so yeah, addressing that now rather than the planned get wildcard in game week 7 might be the way to do it. On to the Saturday fixtures, because it's a Friday night deadline this week with Newcastle hosting Leeds. Wolves welcome Brentford. Great numbers Semedo's putting up. So since he started playing in game week 2, he is top among defenders for penalty area touches, for big chances. This is still among defenders. And he's second among defenders for expected goals, and fourth among defenders for touches in the final third, with only Trent, Cancelo and Shaw having more. And at 4.9 million, ahead of their good fixture run too. I think he could be really one to watch. Nice run of fixtures for Wolves. Like I say, they've got 10 fixtures in a row now against teams from outside the sort of traditional top 6. So I do think they look good for returns, or Wolves players look good for returns at both ends of the pitch. Jimenez, player like I say, brought in last week and delivered that solitary point for me, but his numbers have been good. Chances created, he's up there. Trent has had 20 so far this season. Grealish is second most with 13, and Salah and Jimenez tied on 12. So I do think there's things to come from him, and with games against Brentford and Newcastle at home in 2 of the next 3, I think he's got a really good chance to return. So despite the fact he was a bit underwhelming and he hasn't returned this season, I'm going to keep faith with him and see how he gets on. I think Wolves are benefiting from their manager's style of play. Like, he was an attacking manager at Benfica. I think they scored a sort of a league high amount of goals in the season. One of the seasons he won the league with them, and it looks like he's implementing that same attacking style on Wolves, and maybe it's just taking a little while to get going. They've had 45 shots in the box so far in the first 4 game weeks. That's the 3rd highest in the league, so hopefully more of that continues. On the Brentford front, they're actually ranked 3rd from bottom on FF Hub's ticker for the next 5 game weeks, so it might be a little bit stiffer for them. Raya had a good start to the season, but yeah, tough run now for them with Liverpool, West Ham, Chelsea and Leicester, so I'm avoiding Brentford for a bit. On to Burnley against Arsenal. Burnley, and again, like Leeds and Newcastle, already having a really rough start to the season. 11 big chances conceded for them is the 4th worst of all teams. They've also conceded 19 headed chances, which is by far and away the worst in the league. So that's quite a surprise given Burnley's sort of, I'd say, quite tall and traditional defence. So if Arsenal had some more aerial prowess, it could be a problem for them. But we'll see. I think it could be a game that maybe Pepe benefits if he's getting wide and getting some balls in. Maybe Aubameyang, maybe Lacazette can get some luck there. Underlying numbers on the Arsenal front do suggest Pepe should be Arsenal's best point returner this season. He's had an expected points of 16.2 to just 10 actual points, and a 0.95 non-penalty XG for Pepe at 7.5. That could be a decent differential for those looking to downgrade Bruno. He's in the top 20 of all players for expected points over the first 4 game weeks, and yeah, Arsenal got the fixtures to do it. Burnley, they've got Tottenham in game week 6, but then they've got Brighton, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, Leicester. So pretty good next 5 run of fixtures for Arsenal. They're ranked 4th in FF Hub's ticker, so they could be one to watch. Thought it was really interesting that Ramsdale came straight in to replace Leno. 4.5 million. Could be shrewd because, unlike, I suppose, White is 4.4 million, and whilst that's obviously 1.1 cheaper than Ramsdale, it doesn't take up a slot in your back line if you're looking for a more attacking defender. So yeah, the fact that Ramsdale's coming at that could be not a bad option there, given how assured Arsenal were at the back at stages last season. If they can get back to anywhere near that, he could be a good option. We've got another question in the chat. I turned wildcard on. DLC was the last drop. Tell me about it. 420 Grandma says that in the chat. This game week, it just seemed from Saturday 3 p.m. when Ronaldo scored his first goal, I was looking at my team thinking I need to wildcard this bunch quickly. I mean, I'm down at roughly about a million in the world now, which isn't terrible for this time of the season, but as soon as you start to get 50 to 100 points off where you want to finish, which for me this season would be inside the top 100k, maybe inside the top 50k, it's just going to get harder and harder. And Yeah, we'll see. But DLC, Antonio, the fact that Ronaldo's overtaken Bruno in terms of ownership now is a bit of a worry as well. Lukaku's obviously picking up pace. There's a lot of big players who look like they could take off, and I don't have many in my team, so it's a bit of a worry. On to Liverpool against Palace. I've got to say, Salah has been huge. I captained him in game week 4 to try and offset the Lukaku and Ronaldo captaincies. And to be honest, he could have all. Mane fluffed quite a lot of potential assists and goals for Salah, and did the same for Jota. So I'm sure Jota owners were also cursing him. But yeah, I felt a bit unlucky that Salah didn't return even more for me, because it could have been a huge game for him. Liverpool's defence has definitely picked up. They clean sheet in 5 of the last 6 games now. Last 3 matches against Palace, they've won on aggregate 13-0. Obviously, Palace come here with Vieira, so it'll be a little bit different to how they were with Hodgson. And maybe someone who's going to try and threaten that clean sheet record is Gallagher. He's up to 5.6 million now, 26 points in just 3 games, is because he didn't start game week 1. That's the second most to only Trent of all players. So yeah, Gallagher sort of defying what you'd expect of him. He played really well in the game against West Ham away. He's played really well again against Tottenham. He was just everywhere. I really like the look of him. At 5.6 million, you look at him and think that the price makes you not want to go there, because it doesn't represent how he's playing at the moment. But I think he's just an undervalued pick. He's top for big chance involvements and shots in the 6-yard box in game week 4. And despite the fact this is quite a tricky fixture for Palace, I do think he's got the potential going forward to be a decent returner. I mean, Palace after Liverpool, they've got Brighton at home, Leicester at home, Arsenal away, Newcastle at home, Man City away, and then they've got a really nice run up until the end of November. Wolves, Burnley, Aston Villa, Leeds. So yeah, apart from the Liverpool, Man City away games, the fixtures in the next 9 or 10 for Palace aren't actually that bad. So yeah, Gallagher could be a good option. Armband for me this week will probably be on Salah again. So he's averaged 9.5 points per game this season. He obviously hit that milestone of 100 goals against Leeds, which is amazing. You think how many FPL points he's given us over the season. I expect him to return again here against Palace, who, despite the fact they looked a little bit stronger so far this season, they still have conceded 5 in just 2 games on the road, and I expect Liverpool to punish them again here. Is it Sheila in the chat says Lukaku and Rudiger versus Ronaldo and Marcel is the current dilemma, and also which goalkeeper to go for. Oof. Yeah, very difficult. I'd probably favour Lukaku and Rudiger just because of Chelsea's really good fixture run. I think Ronaldo's gets a little bit more tricky. I know he's feels silly to say, but he is Ronaldo. But I do think that Rudiger probably will outscore Marcel in the next, I'd say, sort of 5 to 10 game weeks. So perhaps overall, if you're looking at captaincy as well, Lukaku and Rudiger looks like probably a better pick of those two. In terms of which goalkeeper to go for, it's definitely something I've been considering, because I've been looking at playing the wild card. None of the goalkeepers at the moment are really coming to the front like Martinez did this time last season. I think Brentford's goalkeeper Raya looks good. Brentford have been quite solid at the back there. He was unlucky to lose it was a good Brighton goal, but he was unlucky to lose the clean sheet at the weekend. I think he's performed quite well. I mean, if you're looking for sort of a guaranteed starter from a top club, or I'd almost suggest going Mendy for their fixture run, because Tuchel likes to rotate that back line. You kind of feel that Mendy is fairly sure of starts. Obviously he's priced at 6 million, so maybe you don't want to spend that much on a defender, but I was contemplating it for a wild card to go expensive at the back, because you know you're going to get starts, and more than likely you're going to get clean sheets. So yeah, maybe one to look at there. Onto City against Southampton. They welcome there, and I think it's Saturday lunchtime. Big question mark for me on the midfield front. To Torres or not to Torres, basically. He's only returned in 1 match. He seems really popular at the moment. His price has gone up to 7.2. He obviously had that whacking great 18-point haul against Arsenal. But yeah, the fact that he's not returning any of the other 3 is a bit of a worry for me, and stopping me at the moment from bringing him in. So he's had 10 shots in the box. This is for the season now. 10 shots in the box, 3 big chances, 1.76 non-penalty expected goals. But in that Arsenal game, he had almost half of that non-penalty XG and 2 of the 3 big chances. So he really did bump his numbers up quite a lot. I think on with City, the area I want to target for them is their defence. It's looking imperious at the moment. Diaz is 26% owned, which is quite mad really, because I think within the community and on Twitter you don't see him in too many teams. But people who have owned him, they have really benefited. I think he's shown, well, he's been a class act in that City back line. And of all players who are 8 million or cheaper, so across any position, he actually ranks as 6th in terms of highest point scorer, with only Benrahma, Pogba, Greenwood and Antonio from other positions outscoring him. So absolutely fantastic value to be outscoring sort of all those players at a higher price. And yeah, it makes me a bit frustrated that I've missed out on the City defence. But I think there's still time. They've got a good game coming up against Southampton this weekend, and I kind of, even in the bigger games, expect City to keep it tight. So yeah, I think Diaz looks good, Cancelo too. There's good options in City's backline this season. On the Saints front, it's not really too much for me to say on them at the moment. I'm not really considering their players. Man City have scored at least 4 goals in their last 3 home ones, and they scored 5 against Southampton when they last met in March. So I'm not thinking too much about Southampton players at the moment. Perhaps when their fixtures do swing a little bit. Norwich against Watford, I'll skip over this one quite quickly because again, Norwich not someone who I'm looking at all. They've lost lost their last 14 Premier League matches, failed to score in 7 of the last 8. Despite the fact I've got Backman in goal, I'm almost guaranteed to lose that clean sheet this weekend based on how my season's going. So even though Norwich have failed to score in 7 of the 8, it's going to be this weekend they're going to score. It's going to be probably even a couple goals from Pukki just to make me feel even worse than I already do with my team. On the Watford front, they've got a good run of fixtures. Actually, only one of the top 6 traditional teams in the next 7 for them, but they are really struggling. So one big chance in the first 4 game weeks is by far and away the worst attacking performance for any team. I'd probably say if you're looking for a game, you're going to miss or not bother to check the score on this weekend, it's surely going to be this one. Both teams sort of lacking in confidence. I wouldn't be surprised if it is a 0-0 or a really scrappy 1-0. So yeah, the 2 championship teams from last season that haven't quite yet adapted to the Premier League. Steve in chat says, I used the wildcard at the weekend but really didn't want to. I was going to take the -4 for Bruno to Ronaldo, but then Son was injured and it sounds like one of those injuries that are hard to shake. Yeah, tricky. I know it seems like a lot of wildcards were played ahead of 4. And now even more so for people who, like me, who didn't get Lukaku and Ronaldo and are panicking a little bit. I think injuries as well with Son has just forced people into it because they kind of feel they can redistribute the money around. And the fact that Son's out for a while, the fact that Calvert-Lewin's out for a while, these players take up a big chunk of cash in your team. So the fact that people are wildcarding with that money doesn't really surprise me because it's a good chance to reallocate the funds to a lot of different positions. It's just a tricky time to do it because I think Manchester United's fixtures aren't great. Chelsea, Manchester United and City's fixtures aren't great, but they'll do well. And similarly, Chelsea's fixtures for the next 2 aren't great with Tottenham and Man City. But after that, all teams do get a bit rosier, and it just makes you feel like you're wildcarding into bad fixtures, which is never quite a good idea. Steve Ball says again, thoughts on Salah or Ronaldo for captain? I was thinking Salah, but Palace looked really good. Well, I covered it just a moment ago. I do think that I'm going to stick with Salah this weekend against Southampton. He's averaged 9.5 points per game so far this season, and I kind of expect them to return against Palace, who conceded 5 goals in the last 2 games, so away from home. So yeah, Salah for me with that extra point for a goal is definitely what I'm going to be going towards. Another game to preview this weekend, Aston Villa against Everton. So Aston Villa have got a tricky 3 fixtures next, sort of. They've got Everton at home, Man United away, and then Tottenham at home. So tricky-ish, but then they have a glorious run from Gameweek 8 to 13, playing only Arsenal away and all others from outside the top 6. So I think very much monitor them in this game against Everton, Man United away and Tottenham. They put in a good display against Chelsea. I thought they were quite unlucky to lose that game 3-0 because they were well in it for quite a long period of time. I think Watkins going back is really going to help. Wouldn't be surprised to see Ings return this weekend, and he's someone I'm definitely thinking of when their fixtures get a bit tasty between 8 and 13 for sure. Everton, like I just mentioned a moment ago, Calvert-Lewin's toe injury, so annoying. I was sat there yesterday thinking, he's got a chance of saving my game week as a bit of a differential and get me back to the rank I started I started with at the start of the game week, but no. At the 11th hour, he's out, and he's obviously got his toe injury. Looks like he's going to be out until October, so going to miss a good chunk of games, maybe 3 or 4. So that's really disappointing because he'd been offering really good value to start this season. Tricky. I think the easy move for people with a free transfer is surely Bamford or Jimenez. Both have got really good fixtures. The fact that Jimenez hasn't concerned or must be a bit of a worry, but he's got great underlying numbers. Bamford, you saw what he did last season. Whilst Leeds haven't started the same, you do expect them to have a good game against Newcastle on Friday night, given how poor Newcastle have been. So I think if you've got a free transfer and you haven't got either of those two players, it's a good location to go. I also think Ings isn't too bad. I think Everton can be scored against, as we saw last night. Even Burnley managed it. Man United, whilst they ripped Newcastle apart at the weekend, they conceded against them. They obviously conceded two at home against Leeds. So Man United aren't watertight. Tottenham as well. Their defence was in pieces on Saturday lunchtime against Crystal Palace. So yeah, perhaps Ings isn't a bad shout for Calvert-Lewin. I just wanted to mention on the Everton front before moving on, Gray and Townsend. Both cheap, both doing the business for Everton. I compared the two of them because I do think they could be good options if you're still looking to downgrade Fernandes to accommodate Lukaku or Ronaldo. Prices are quite similar. Gray is 5.7, Townsend's 5.4. I read out a couple of their stats. It does look like Gray is slightly better attacking wise, but see what we think of these. So shots in the box, Gray leads that 4-0. Expected goals, Gray leads that 0.89 to 0.56, but expected assists, that goes in Townsend's favour by quite a lot. So Gray is just 0.39, whereas Townsend has 1.02, and expected points again very similar, less than 1.5 in it. So Townsend's had 14.9 over the first 4 game weeks. Gray has had 16.6. So very close, but not much in it. And Gray probably the better chance for goal output. Townsend the best for assists. Obviously banged in a great goal last night, but low XG on that. So I think both are providing good value in that Everton frontline at the moment. And Benitez seems to have their trust, and they have his. And it was nice to hear Townsend after the game saying how much he enjoys playing for Benitez. So I don't expect his position to be under threat too much, and for a fairly minimal output of 5.4, I think he's one of the best value midfielders at the moment. Let's move on and talk about Brighton, who are hosting Leicester. Like I mentioned earlier, fair play to anyone that had Sanchez from the start of the season. I'm sure quite a few of you in chat have it. He's been a thorn in my side, really. I don't know why I didn't go for him. He's got 26% ownership. 4.2 expected goals conceded after the first 4 game weeks for Brighton is the 6th best record of all teams, and they've been fairly tight at the back, so I think they've done well. None of the Brighton attackers are really sort of inspiring me at the moment, so I don't think I'm going to be factoring any of them in my side. But yeah, I've got to say, Sanchez in goal, and some of their defenders have started the season well. Leicester, they've got 4 good fixtures in their next 5, but they've been so poor. Brighton, Burnley, Crystal Palace, Man United and Brentford. They look good for returns, but I honestly don't know where it's going to come from. Maddison, Barnes and Iheanacho, 3 heroes of last season, and Maddison Barnes the season before as well. No attacking returns between them. Only 1 clean sheet in the first 4 games. I don't know what's up with Leicester. They've got, I think it's Europa League, is it this week? It'll be another chance to watch them. But yeah, I think Vardy's provided a goal. He was unlucky not to score against Man City. But at the moment, Leicester, who typically a team with great value players, have really not turned up so far this season. So it's another wait and see for them for me. That game's on Sunday. Another one, it's 3 big games on Sunday, because United go to West Ham and straight after Chelsea go to Spurs, and it's going to be another afternoon of Lukaku and Ronaldo comparisons. And I'm going to do a bit of it in a moment. Just looking at my team and not having either of them, it is a bit gut-wrenching when you see them with the points that they've secured in the first game and what you expect them to do in future game weeks, and trying to bet against them, which I did do at the weekend, and what I even might do this weekend, seems insane. So maybe these stats will maybe change my mind. But United. So Ronaldo, the 2nd best for expected goals over the weekend, and I wanted to compare them. I know we've only got 1 game's worth of data to go on in the Premier League, but they played similar sort of level teams almost. Ronnie did edge it across the board, apart from bonus points, but appreciate it's just a 90-minute sample. So just to give you some stats from game week 4. So Ronaldo edged Lukaku on shots in the box 5-2. He also, they edged him on big chances 2-1. He had a superior XG with 1 exactly. Lukaku had 0.6. Ronaldo also did well on the assist front. He had one key pass. He had expected assists of 0.2, whereas Lukaku had 0.08. And expected points, Ronnie outscored Lukaku there as well, 8.3 to 6.2. It's difficult. I think both were not lucky, but I suppose the fact that Lukaku scored 2 goals from his only 2 shots, and one of which was a belter from outside the box, and Ronaldo's were a tap in and through the legs, it does hurt a little bit. But fair play to anyone that had them, and I just think now for me, I've got to get one of them, because I think they're more important to each of their relative teams than Bruno is to United now. The fact that Ronaldo started in the Champions League tonight as well makes me think that Ole obviously really values what level of performance he's going to bring to the team. The fact that Ronaldo's passed Bruno as well in ownership is another reason to look at him as well, because I just think that he's surely going to turn into the main man at United. And what also adds strength to Ronaldo's cause is how well United have performed in an attacking sense as a team compared to Chelsea. So United have created 12 big chances so far this season, whereas Chelsea have only created 6. So the fact that United are besting them in as a team on those numbers as well makes me think that throughout the course of the season, that 1 million extra on Ronaldo might be worth it with the amount of attacking threat that United provide compared to Chelsea. So yeah, it's a really tough one. I'd be interested to know in the chat, shout out if you've gone for Ronaldo or Lukaku. But yeah, getting both, as Fraser says in the chat, seems really difficult. On the rest of United, Pogba 7 assists so far this season, amazing return so far, but he's only created 2 big chances with an expected assist rate of just 1.3. So I do think that is a little bit unsustainable. He's been great so far. It remains to be seen how he gets played. I think he's been rested tonight for the Champions League game, so looks like he's good to start against West Ham. But yeah, I feel like those returns for him aren't sustainable, which is a shame because he's played really well. Shaw's numbers, they're on the up. He's second for big chances created, too. I think that's just in terms of Manchester United. So yeah, if you've got Shaw at 5.5, whilst United haven't been, let's say, reliable for clean sheets at home so far this season, Shaw does look like he's certainly got a lot of attacking threat, and the way he burst forward to set up Ronaldo for his second goal was impressive. So West Ham, they start in Europa League this week. And the fact that Antonio's out makes this a hard game for them, welcoming United on Sunday. They were stifled by Saints. They had an XG of just 0.7. That was the 4th worst of all teams in Gameweek 4. So I think, despite what I said about Shaw, I think United have got a good chance of keeping him out this weekend. Without Antonio, who's been their main goal threat, I think they've got a good chance there. Ben Rama is an interesting one. He's been in my team now for 2 game weeks typically. He's obviously not returned in 2. He's 6.4 million, and when you start to look at the City defenders, like I mentioned earlier, Diaz, Cancelo, who are coming in at just 6, it makes him seem expensive because they're providing clean sheets, they're getting attacking returns, they're in a better team. Yeah, it's a little bit worrying. I mean, he was brought off fairly early again against Southampton. He's obviously well owned. The fact that they needed goals in that game as well makes you think, why was he subbed early? So Ben Rama could be one to watch if you've not thought about getting rid of him already. He could be one that needs to go in the next couple of weeks. See how he fares in the Europa League for West Ham. Finally, Spurs against Chelsea, the big one on Sunday afternoon. A really good one to end the game week with. Spurs, of course, were decimated against Palace, both players and performance. Many players out. Had Ben Davies playing left centre-back by the end of the game. Dyer obviously went off injured. They still had a good team out going forward, but really poor from an attacking sense. 1 shot, worst attacking display. I think I saw a stat that was almost 15 years. Don't fancy their chances against a really informed Chelsea team. I expect Chelsea to go to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and put on an impressive display and perhaps win 2-0. Chelsea, like I say, undefeated in 10 of their last 11 away matches. Alonso, for anyone that's had him from the start of the season, fair play. He's the gift that keeps on giving. He's had 28 points, and it's the second highest of all defenders. But Chilwell could return. Tuchel said after the game, it looks like Chilwell is mentally and physically ready to come back in. So certainly one to keep an eye on if you're an Alonso owner. Chelsea, like I say, just a little bit earlier, they only got an XG of 6 for the season, but have overperformed that to score 9. For context, Wolves have a higher XG of 7.2, but they have only scored 2. So I do think Chelsea's attacking numbers are, make them look a lot worse than they have been doing. So whilst Lukaku did do well to score those 2 goals, and like I say earlier, I think that United are proving to be a better attacking force than Chelsea so far. I've got to say that so far, because Chelsea have certainly had harder fixtures, especially going to Liverpool. But I do think that Ronaldo is going to get served up more chances than Lukaku. In terms of their defence, it's been great, really. Similar. It's been great in terms of clean sheets, but again, it's been overperforming a fair amount. 5.4 expected goals conceded for Chelsea after the first 4 game weeks is the 11th best, or I suppose you'd say the 9th worst of all teams. They should have conceded 5.4, so yeah, they've actually conceded just 1. So they've certainly overperformed in terms of their defensive numbers, and yeah, it remains to be seen how they fare in this Spurs game, but I do expect them to keep it tight given how out of sorts Spurs have been with injuries and absentees. Now I'm going to bring up my current team on screen, so feel free to ask any questions as we move towards wrapping up this week's episode. Here it is. I mean, look at it. Looks absolutely awful, doesn't it? Calvert-Lewin, Antonio, Foster doesn't really matter about the flag, but that's how the squad's lining up at the moment. So the options I'm running through, keep Antonio and keep him benched for this game week. Do a straight transfer of Calvert-Lewin to either Bamford or Ings. That'd be for a free transfer, and just leave the team as it is with Salah captain, Fernandes vice, and just hope that Fernandes can outscore Ronaldo. The other option is downgrade Fernandes to any one of Gray, maybe Torres, maybe Greenwood, and upgrade Calvert-Lewin to Ronaldo for a -4. I've only got 1 free transfer this week. The annoying thing is I've got to play players like Taylor, White and Benrahma this weekend who have got some rough fixtures, and the fact that I just don't trust Backman in goal. I look at my team and there's about 5 or 6 players in there, and if I extend it to the squad, maybe 7 or 8 players, which is half of it that I don't like or trust from a fantasy point of view at the moment, which is not a good place to be in. So yeah, it's difficult decisions for me at the moment, but yeah, like I say, more than likely. I don't even know more than likely. I'm either going to transfer Calvert-Lewin out for a free to Bamford or Ings, or wildcard. And if I do wildcard, I'll do another stream before the deadline to update how that's gone. But yeah, tricky time as we head into Game Week 5. I think I've got some players with some good fixtures. I mean, for all I know, Watford could get a clean sheet against faltering Norwich. White and Taylor looks like they're going to play out a really boring 0-0 because neither of their attacking numbers have been that great. And maybe Benrahma can do something against a tired United. How good is that for wishful thinking? Anyway, I hope you all have a great Game Week 5. If you've got any questions, pop them on the video after I finish the upload, and I'll get to them and I'll answer as many questions as I can. Thanks everyone for tuning in and joining me. I'll be back next week to preview Game Week 6. And if I'm back sooner, it's because I've played the wild card. So until next time, thanks everyone.